We're living in a world on fire, and the question is, what do you do when the world is on fire? And I think the answer, paradoxically, is you pray, you turn to God. And just as you're starting to settle into that life, you'll find that God is forcing you out back into that world. And I think that cycle has to be constantly repeated in the Christian life, away from the world to God, from God back to the world. We're living in like a really challenging, difficult time for all kinds of people, and in some ways maybe for everyone. And I think the best way to describe that is to say the world is on fire. I get that from Teresa of Avila, who, writing just after the Reformation as a Catholic monastic, seeing the way the world is coming apart. And so she writes to her sisters and says, the world is on fire, what am I to do? And then she teaches them how to pray. She says, this is how we handle the destruction of the world coming upon us. We fall on our faces before God. And when I read that for the first time, it just arrested me, because that seemed right to me, that no matter how broken things are around us, we can't even begin to see them rightly until we've kind of turned away from all that to God. The moment you really turn to God and start to, so to speak, get comfortable with being with God in the midst of a world on fire, God will force you out, force you back into the work of engaging the world. Sometimes people assume there's a contrast between activism and contemplation, or between the active and the contemplative life. But I think the best minds and hearts in the tradition have said not at all, that contemplation and activity belong to each other. And there may be seasons in which you are given to prayer, given to contemplation of God, and seasons where you're on the streets working closely with people in need. But ultimately, the Christian life as a whole is about the rhythm of moving from contemplation to action and from action to contemplation. And there's something about that humanizes us, because as humans, we're meant for God and neighbor. I mean, this is the heart of Jesus' message to us, I think, that human beings are meant for God and neighbor. And so our lives should reflect that in activism and in prayer.